Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Robin Hood Half and Full Marathon webinar, broadcasting live from my studio, aka my kitchen. My name is George Anderson, and I am the training partner with the sweatshop and the event. And if you've been on my email list or in the Facebook group, I'm the guy who's been on the other end of the computer typing away answers and giving you a few ideas as to the sort of things you should be doing with your training right now. But what I wanted to do tonight was a pretty short summary of where I think the ideal place to be is right now for both half and full marathon training. But then really what I want to do is to open this up for you to ask your questions. And I've done a couple of Q&A things over on the Facebook group, and it's well worth hopping over there if you're not already on there. The link's up there. And also getting onto my email list, also link up there in the post information here, because I'm going to be sharing a lot more information between now and the event. And in fact, it's going to be accelerating because up till now it's been, you've been training, getting into it and putting in the miles, putting in the training. But now things really do start to get serious because you're getting closer. In fact, it's 5 weeks to go this Sunday to the day where we're all going to be together in Nottingham, running around for either a half or a full marathon. So if you have questions, or first of all, get on there, join the group, join my email list, and for the purposes of this next 30 minutes or however long I'm able to stay up doing this for, have questions. Okay, have questions, ask questions, and the best questions, I can promise you this, the very best questions are the ones that sound a little bit awkward, a little bit dumb, that you feel a little bit silly for asking. They're the best ones because they're the ones that probably other people are equally confused about. And you'll be doing a huge service to them and adding immense value to them and everybody else on the call if you just ask those questions. So no such thing as a silly question. Be as specific as you can, give me as much information as you can, and just post on the comments below this video. And then once I finish going through my short piece about where you should be right now with your training, then I'm going to just go through those questions and I'm going to answer them in as much detail as I can. So, all right, here we go. Now, this is a bit tricky because there's a half and a full marathon, but in both cases, you just need to feel right now that you're in control. And it's not about how many miles you've done. It's not about how many times a week you get to train or whether you're on track for your target time. It's about how controlled you feel about the event. Now, you've got 5 weeks to go, just over 5 weeks. 5 weeks on Sunday, I believe it is. So there's still plenty of time for all sorts of things to happen. What you don't want is to start panicking if you feel like you haven't done as much training as you should have done. Or if you feel like you should be over on the Facebook group, the Robin Hood Facebook group, there's been a number of people talking about how they've just done their first 20 miler. Now, if you're training for a marathon and you've only just done your first ever 16 miler, that can be quite intimidating. That can be quite worrisome, thinking, well, hang on a second, I haven't done anywhere near that. And you start worrying about all the potential things that could go wrong. And you should be doing this. And then maybe you're thinking, I'm going to go out on Sunday and run 20 miles. Don't panic. Same for the half marathon. If you're only up to 7 miles or 6 miles, don't panic. There's still plenty of time. You don't have to go the distance or anywhere near to the distance, not even for a half marathon. Between now and the race, the only thing you really need to do, apart from obviously continuing with your training, the only thing you really need to do is to get a really good idea as to what your target time is. Now, that's not necessarily going to be the same as what you set out to hit the very first day you decided to enter the half or full marathon, because things change. You can't see into the future and see exactly how your training is going. If you've missed a huge swathe of training because of an injury or an illness, or you just didn't get started quick enough, then that's the reality. That's where you are with things. It doesn't mean that you have to stick stubbornly to the time you set yourself as a target right back there on day one. So reassess. Not only is that going to give you a better chance of an even race and a more enjoyable race, it's actually going to increase your chances of being successful and maybe even going faster than that. Best race I've done in a long time was a 10K I ran back at the end of June, sorry, right here in Tame where I live. And I just run 100 miles 2 weeks beforehand, so I wasn't going into it with any sort of expectations for a fast time. But I lined up and I just thought, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm just going to really go for it and enjoy it. I'm not going to push myself. I'm not going to really stress about it. And because of that, I went out and I was relaxed. It was a nice even pace run. And I found myself in the second half thinking, you know what, George, this is looking pretty good. You can speed this up a little bit. And so I paced it out. And I felt finished feeling amazing, feeling really, really good. And it was my fastest time in about 3 years in the same course. Now, if I'd gone out hard in that race, then I would almost definitely have died at the end. It wouldn't have been pretty. So what I'm saying is, if you have a target time in mind, now's the time to reassess that, recalculate, reevaluate where you are with things. Because wherever you are, if your training's gone to plan, everything's going perfectly, if all your training sessions are guiding you towards that pace as well, that time for the day, then fantastic. But if things aren't going exactly as you planned, then you need to reevaluate, because you will have a much better experience on the day itself. Now, just before I go to questions, and just a reminder that if you just tuned in, ask your questions just below this video on the Facebook page. If you write your comments as your questions rather as comments, then after I've finished in a couple of minutes time, I'm going to go through all those questions, and I'm going to spend the majority of my time here this evening answering them. And I'm just going to stay up as long as it takes to get through to get through all your questions. I'm here to the bitter end, so ask away. Please, it's easier for me if you write them as comments to this post rather than writing as separate posts. So if you've done that, please just repost as a comment to this video, because I can just go down the line and just answer them one by one then. So I just want to briefly talk about pacing here, as I mentioned it a moment ago, in the context of your race pace. When you know what time you're going for, and if you haven't got a clue, if your goal is to finish the half or the full marathon, then what I suggest you do is you look back at previous times, previous years, go onto the Robin Hood website, have a look at what the finish times were like last year, and see what you think you would be happy with. Would you be happy with coming dead last? If not, then have a look at what time the last 50 runners finished across the line at. If you think, well, I'm probably done a bit more training than them, so I want to be at least 100 runners before the end, or maybe at least 200, and see what sort of times. That'll give you an indication as to what you could be aiming for on the day. But more importantly than that, look at what pace you've been running in your training. If you've been doing any long runs, hopefully you have, but also threshold runs and interval sessions, what kind of pace have you been hitting them at? Because you're probably going to be going quicker than you do on the short runs, and quicker than you are on the long runs, but maybe a little bit slower than you are on the short runs. So short runs, fast runs, long runs, slow runs, and you want to be somewhere in the middle, and that's going to be your race pace. Generally speaking, of course, your half marathon pace is going to be a little quicker than marathon pace, but get an idea as to what your pace is. One thing to mention on pace, because it's something that comes up time and again, is the pace you should run your long run at. And I wrote a blog on this just the other day, and in fact it went out as the email from the sweatshop on Sunday. So if for the event, if you got that, then you'll have already read this. But in that email, I talk about the speed of the long run. And what I recommend is that you slow the long run down so you're not at race pace. Now, some people can get away with being closer to the race pace than others. In general, a good rule of thumb is to start with your marathon pace, add a minute or a minute and a half per mile to that pace, slow it down by that much, and there's your long run pace. It's challenging because it feels really easy to run at that pace, at least to start with. But the payoff for having slightly less gains, because you're still going to get those aerobic gains, you're still going to benefit aerobically from doing that slower pace. But the payoff is that you're not as fatigued afterwards. You'll recover quicker, which means that you're going to be able to train harder in your other sessions during the week than you would have done if you'd smashed that long run at race pace. If you think about the marathon or the half marathon even, running at your race pace, that's going to take you a few days to recover from that. Running at full distance at race pace, you're going to be out of action for a few days. All right, even if you can get up and walk around the next day, you get an extra medal for that, by the way. But if you can, and getting down the stairs is no problem, you can get off the toilet unaided, because that's always the problem I have. I can stand up properly. If that's the case, if you're fine, your neural system is still having to recharge. And if you went out and tried to hit a quality session, you would struggle if you've raced at race pace. So if you're doing 75% or even 60% of that distance at that pace, then you're still going to get some of those struggles in the days afterwards. That's my main reasoning for encouraging you to slow down during your long run. That's not to say you can't practice your race pace, because actually if you do the majority of the run, your long run, at the slow speed, and then maybe for the last half an hour, or even in the latter stages, putting in an hour of the long run at race pace, that's going to train your body to run at race pace, but it's not going to be so much loading that it's going to fatigue your systems, that it's going to encroach on the quality of sessions in the subsequent days. So slow down the long runs, speed up the faster, shorter runs, and then your race pace will be somewhere between the two. Okay, questions. Let me hop over now to Facebook and see what we've got. Now this, I'll have to a couple of little refreshes here. Let's see what we've got. Okay, some questions coming in already. Good, good, good. Okay, Andy, first of all, hi George. My question is about refueling during the race itself. Is it okay to use energy bars or gels, or should I try to make sure I take on enough before the race itself? Thanks, Andy. Andy, brilliant question to kick things off. It's a real minefield out there when you're talking about refueling and rehydrating on the run. Best advice I can give you is to try different things. It's very, very common for runners to refuel on the run with energy gels, not so much with bars, but there's no reason why you couldn't do. Or even jelly babies, or someone's talking about Percy Pigs, the little sweets, the other day as well. That's all fine to do that. Just need to try it out beforehand. People have been saying that they've been kind of put off the idea of refueling with energy products, sports nutrition products, because of some of the horror stories they've heard. That's normally if you try it out and it's race day and you can get incredible stomach cramps, and it can be really quite a hideous experience. That's not going to happen for everybody. You might find you get brilliant results from doing that. Personally, I use a chia seed based energy gel, which works in a completely different way. And they work by helping your body tap into your fat stores rather than spiking up your glycogen, your blood sugar levels. But the key thing really, without getting into the details of strategies, is to practice and try different things out beforehand. If you think you're going to need energy gels, it's probably advisable for a marathon to have something, even if it's just to break the race up and give you something to look forward to. I can have a snack when I get to 18 miles or something like that. The half marathon, probably less essential, but still not a bad idea to have something for the half as well. Okay, Catherine Bryan. Hi, George. What do you think about foam rollers? Do you think they're beneficial? How frequently should they be used, and when? Thanks. I think foam rollers are the work of the devil himself, Catherine, if you want my honest opinion. They are actually a fantastic aid to recovery, and also can be very beneficial when you're warming up as well, when you're getting ready to go out for a run, depending on whether you've got any specific niggles or trigger points, sore points. But they really hurt when you do it, so you've got to be prepared for a little bit of pain. But a little bit of pain never hurt anybody, as they say. And this kind of pain is pretty good, because what's happening when you use the foam roller, for anybody who doesn't know what it is, it's like just a roll of foam. Funny that, but it's quite high density. And you roll various appendages over it. So your arm, for example, or your legs, your calves, your hamstrings, your quads, right into the thighs, the side of the thighs into the IT bands. And by rolling over them for a minute or so, what you do is you're breaking down adhesions and trigger points. So you've got the fibers of the fascia that overlay the muscles should be lined up nice and pretty like that, nice and lined up. But what happens is you get these trigger points where you get these tension points, these hot spots, and you can't get the same pull. So they work nice, they run across one another like this, get these hot spots, and they don't. And that can cause tightnesses. What you think is a muscle tightness is actually an adhesion or a trigger point. So the foam roller, very painfully, but very effectively breaks these down. It's a bit like a self-massage. In fact, it's called SMR, or self-myofascial release. So you could use them before you run. I use mine on my calves most mornings, just to give them a little bit of a loosen off when I'm doing I do a 20-minute stretch every single morning. And I do a little bit of foam rolling within that time as well. I also use a trigger point ball. I'll show you that. As I have it in my kitchen, I keep it in here. This is a trigger point ball. This is a brilliant piece of kit. And I just roll it on the bottom of my foot, again, very painfully. I like to start my day with a bit of pain. Who doesn't? And that just loosens off my ankles. So yeah, you've got to try these things, but afterwards as well, really good way of helping boost that recovery. Last year I did 10 back-to-back marathons, and after every session, I reluctantly but made myself get down and do a good 5 or 6 minutes on the roller and ice baths and all those other things as well. But the roller really helped flush out those toxins and break down those adhesions. So yeah, horrible, but worth it. Helen Sarah Johnson. Hi, George. My question is about post-run energy levels. The 2 days after a long run, I feel tired and lethargic. I'm a strict vegetarian. Try to eat as clean as possible, but still struggle. Do you have any advice, please? Thanks, Helen. Okay, Helen, 2 things. First of all, going back to my point I was making in the initial presentation, it may be that you're running too hard, because don't forget, running the long run is going to take a little bit out of your body. So running too fast for your long run is going to take a lot more out of your body. And it might be that that's actually a symptom that you're experiencing. But I also recommend increasing the amount of healthy fats you have, in particular coconut oil and omega-3 fatty acids. So fish oil, chia seeds, again, talking about chia seed energy gels, chia seeds by themselves, a great source of omega-3, and fish oils or flaxseed oil supplements as well. So these are really, really good for boosting the neural system. It might be that your nervous system is fatigued and that's giving you a problem. It might also be your iron levels are low. So maybe a blood test at your local GPs could help give you a little bit of an insight into that as well. But first of all, boost your, especially if you're a vegetarian, actually, that will kind of make sense. It might be that you do want to start looking into some sort of iron supplement, or research how you can get more iron into your diet. And supplementing might be a way to go, but the first thing to do before you start taking any supplements is go and get a blood test with your doctor, and they'll be able to test for any signs of anemia. It's really common, so if you do have that, it's not just because you're a vegetarian. A lot of women in particular get anemia, so you've got to watch out for that as well. But certainly boost up the amount of healthy fats that you're also getting. Jane Astill. Hi, George. Can you just run through what supplements you recommend and what the purpose of them is, please? Well, actually, mentioning about the fatty, the omega-3. Omega-3 is kind of the key supplement that I would recommend. And the main reason for that is it's anti-inflammatory. So when you exercise and when you eat certain foods that are inflammatory, mainly things like carbohydrates and sugars, these cause an inflammatory response in your body. Now that's okay, but if you have an abundance of inflammatory substances and lots of exercise and lots of stress, and you're eating a lot of omega-6 rich fatty acids like vegetable oils, then you can have your ratio of anti-inflammatories and pro-inflammatories out of whack. And if your if your pro-inflammatories, like these inflammatory foods, are kind of in a ratio of more than 3 or 4 to 1 to the anti-inflammatories, then you can get this state of chronic inflammation. So supplementing with omega-3, flaxseed oils, fish oils, krill oils, this is a good way of getting, of starting to redress things. Now, obviously, you're going to be training, you're going to be causing some physiological stresses on your body, but by taking supplements or eating a diet rich in the natural sources of those foods, you don't have to supplement with it. You eat plenty of oily fish, you eat plenty of chia seeds, you're getting all those kind of foods into your diet anyway. You don't have to supplement at all. It's more convenient for a lot of people. And then that's going to help redress the balance a little bit. Also recommend vitamin D and magnesium, and that's kind of like they're both all-rounders as vitamin D and magnesium, mainly because studies have shown that most people are deficient in them, and they're pretty important vitamins and minerals. They're precursors to lots of enzymatic reactions, and they're essential for general well-being. So you can get on by without taking supplements for them, but a lot of people experience benefits, increase in energy levels when they do start taking them. So they're the 3 that I take. I also take this stuff here. I have this in the morning. It is a supplement. It's called Lean Greens. I drink leangreens.com. But what you get from that is just an abundance of vegetables, supplements, added supplements like chlorella, spirulina, wheatgrass, barley grass, loads of good stuff. I have that every single morning. I just stick it in my shaker here, shake. I have that whilst I'm rolling my foot on the ball, and then I get down to my stretches, and I polish my halo up a little bit after that. So yeah, no, only kidding. I do those things, but I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, that's what I recommend with supplements, Jane. But the key thing is to test and to notice any difference that you're experiencing. If you struggle with sleep, getting to sleep, then try taking magnesium an hour before you go to bed. And does that have any effect? Do it for 2 or 3 nights on the bounce. Does it help you get to sleep? Because it's one of the symptoms of deficiency in magnesium is a struggle in getting to sleep. Of course, there could be other reasons. If you're loading up on the coffee, then that's also going to inhibit you wanting to go to sleep. But yeah, they're the ones I recommend. I'm not a huge fan of massive amounts of supplementation, but the 3 I take there: omega-3, vitamin D, magnesium, and then I'll take my lean greens first thing in the morning. There we go. Okay, Paul, can I get away with just 2 runs a week training for a full? Absolutely. I trained for Endure 24, which is a 24-hour run. And between March and June, when the event took place, I did 9 runs. That was a maximum of 1 run a week. So it's possible, not necessarily the optimum. And although, again, going back, when I wrote my first iMarathon program, the Intelligent Marathon program, I wrote that off the back of an experiment I did with myself. Can I break 3 hours for the marathon with just 2 runs a week? And I finished in 2:59:37. So yes, you can, but again, for most people, it's not advisable because you're not going to be getting enough. Depends on exactly what kind of training you do and what else you train around that. What else you do you're training around that. I was also doing a lot of gym work, and I had a good level of fitness to start off with. And same thing for Endure 24. I wasn't coming into this fresh. I knew what I was doing, and I could push myself hard in those training sessions. But it's possible. Absolutely, it's possible. Most people could probably get up and rock out a marathon, even if most of it was walking. So it depends on what your goals are and what your balance is. If I said to you, no, it's not possible, you're probably going to go ahead and do it anyway and prove me wrong. So you're going to go out there and do it. But if you were to train 3 times a week, which is usually the sweet spot for most people, then you'll find that you'll get better results. Some people do get better results with 4 runs a week. Most 3 is the sweet spot, like I said, but 4 runs a week, some people will benefit from that. A lot of people doing 4 runs a week will start to get diminishing returns and actually increase their chances of injury. And of course, if you get injured, you miss 2 weeks of training, then you've kind of negated the extra run that you were putting in there anyway. So I tend to err on the side of less is more, caution, and have just 3 runs a week, but 3 really good quality runs. So my ideal training week would be a long run, a threshold run, and some kind of interval or hill-based session. And I'll have plenty of rest, plenty of body conditioning in between times as well. Okay, great question so far. Quick screen refresh, see if anything else has come in. Just taking a moment just to think about it. But yeah, if you have any questions, keep them coming, keep asking away. It doesn't seem to be refreshing very quickly here. Let me have another look over here. All right, open a different tab up. It might be because I'm broadcasting as well. So bear with me whilst I see what's happening here. Hopefully it's still going out and you can still see me. Maybe I should try and fill in the time with something else. Let's have a look. Oh, hang on. I think I'm back. No, I just lost the page completely now. Sorry. I'm just going to go onto my phone Facebook and have a look, see if I can tap into it from there. Might be easier and quicker to do it that way. Re-establishing lost connection. Right. Sorry about this, folks. I'll be right with you. Good job this isn't live. Oh, hang on a second. All right. Ikano, Robin Hood. Ikano, Robin Hood. Half marathon and mini marathon. Right. Okay. I'm back on. The wonders of modern technology. Live webinar. 8 comments. Oh, maybe we've done all the questions. Are there any more questions? Okay, Catherine. Catherine, another question from you. Yeah, Facebook's going a bit funny on the old Mac there, but I'll do it from the phone. Catherine, another question from me. Obviously, every program has a taper built in, but just wondered how often you recommend running in the last 7 days before the half. Great question, and I will be doing a bigger piece on tapering. But if you're racing on the Sunday in a half marathon the week before, you could probably get 2, you might even get 3 runs a week in. The basic taper is just to do some easy 30 to 45 minute runs, nice and steady, maybe putting in some fast strides as well. So while you're running on the taper, don't worry about this too much now. Start your taper 2 weeks out. You don't want to be doing any long runs the week before. You want your last long run 2 or even 3 weeks before the race itself, if you have the time, and take those 3 weeks off for long running, because it allows your body to regenerate. So that's only a couple more weeks of proper training you've got to go. Let's call it 3 more weeks of proper training to go. Then you're into taper mode. So that sounds better, doesn't it? Only 3 more weeks of training. Then it starts to really get real. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Exactly what you do with those depends on what your program has been telling you to do there, Catherine. Kelly, hi George, what should we eat the day of the race and how early to avoid any upsets? Heard some people run empty but take food with them. Okay, it's a good question. The simple answer to that, Kelly, is to not do anything different to what you would normally do. So on the day of the race, don't do anything different. You want to, if you have porridge for breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, then have porridge for breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, or as near as damn it as you can to it. It's worthwhile trying to do a long run at the time of the race. I think it's 9:30. I just got to check that. I think it might be 9:30 kickoff. So you want to start maybe getting at least one long run in about that time, and then practice your breakfast strategy. Bearing in mind, you've got to factor a bit of travel into there as well, but just eat what you would normally eat. Same with the night before. Not a big fan of massive carb loading. You don't need it, or most people don't need it. So if you are going to have some extra carbs, try it out before your long run. The long runs are like a dry run of the race. They're an opportunity to try your kit out. They're an opportunity to try your on-the-run refueling strategy out. And they're an opportunity to try your logistics out. You don't have to drive to Nottingham for your long run, but at least think about how you're going to get set up and how you're going to go out for that run in terms of timing it around your food and whatever other rituals and routines you have. So if you're going to race at 9:30, you got to be on the start line doing my warm up at 9:15, 9:10, which means you want to be doing your own thing first of all, getting yourself in the zone, getting focused, and then you're ready to run at 9:30. So you can do as much practice as you can beforehand. During your long runs as practice. Yes, some people will have something to eat on the run, normally energy gels. You won't see that many people eating proper food on the run. Not even for a marathon, really. You get a couple of people eating like chocolate bars or energy bars, but it's quite hard to chew and breathe at the same time. And you're probably finding you get a bit of indigestion if you were to do that. That's why gels got so much popularity, because they're just really convenient. You just rip the top off them, squeeze them down your neck, and if you're lucky, you're not sick. Because some of them are pretty sweet, but again, some people it works brilliant for. So you've got to try and find out what works for you. Just don't do anything different on the day. That's all I'd say. But good question. Samantha Cotter, hi George. I'm finding my legs are getting very tired early in my runs just recently. I'm following a plan which includes rest days, but I don't seem to be recovering time for my next run. Is there anything I can do to improve recovery rates? Also, what would you recommend eating the night before? Okay, 2 questions there. The first one, Samantha, what you could try is after a run, try an ice bath, which isn't the most pleasant of experiences, but it really does work. You reduce the localized inflammation, which isn't necessarily the best thing to do. That inflammation is good because it's bringing nutrients to the area. But if you've got training and you're finding that you're really, really struggling with recovery, then ice baths will accelerate the rate. So try an ice bath. Just fill a bath of water up about that deep with cold water, 8-10 inches, chuck in a couple of bags of ice, give it a couple minutes to get really cold, then sit in it and enjoy it. It's actually good fun. What I do is I don't time it. I do about 10 minutes, but I don't time it. I have 2 or 3 tracks on here that make me feel warm, like Barry Manilow's Copacabana. I can't think of what they are now, but my warm tracks. So I put them on, sit in a bath of ice, and think, this is warm, this is warm, this is warm, and it sort of works. But what definitely works is how you feel afterwards. Apart from your legs being a bit numb for a while, you do recover a lot quicker. So that's answer to the first question. Or consider the fact that you might still be overtrained. Depends how many rest days you're putting in there. Just maybe worthwhile giving yourself a couple of days extra off. Maybe even if it means skipping one of your sessions, skip one, and that way you might find you get yourself back on track again and less tired. What would you recommend eating the night before? So the night before the race is the same as the night before a long run, as I just discussed a moment ago. What I suggest is, I know this is controversial for some people, but I don't like me or my clients eating lots and lots of gluten-containing foods like pasta. Now you get some wheat-free pasta, gluten-free pasta, okay. I'm going to come on to the overall starchy carb argument in a moment. I did do a nutrition webinar or session on the Facebook group, which you're all accessing now, I hope, through the link above. I'll allow you in once I finish the webinar tonight, because you have to request access. But with gluten, even if you're not a celiac, even if you don't have a real intolerance to the protein that you get in wheat-based products, not potatoes, sorry, you get it in bread, you get it in pasta, you get it in cakes and biscuits as well, anything that has wheat in it, basically, and rye and barley. There are other things that contain it as well, spelt. Even if you don't have an intolerance to it, you probably still have a sensitivity. And what that means is the gluten still has the potential to cause all sorts of havoc in your intestinal tract. So it can loosen up the holes, it can let whole undigested particles of food through, called leaky gut syndrome. And you might not have any real symptoms other than a bit of bloatedness, and maybe a drop in energy levels. Maybe you get kind of skin problems, maybe you just find yourself getting banging headaches. Nothing major, bit of an inconvenience, but nothing too life-threatening, like celiac disease could be, which is a complete intolerance to gluten. But I tell you what, if you stop eating this stuff and try it for 3 days, see how you feel. Try that as an experiment. Going back to your actual question, which wasn't about that at all. Your actual question is, what should you have the night before? It doesn't have to be a massive plate of pasta. That's like the quintessential runner food. You can be different. You don't have to do that. Try potatoes. Try quinoa. Try rice. That's fine as well. But the key here really isn't just in having gluten-free. It's also in how much you're eating. You don't need masses and masses of starchy carbohydrates at any time. You really don't. Okay, you've got enough in your system. You only need like 500 grams is the most you can store in your body as a maximum. Now, the bigger you are, the more you're going to be able to store. You store it in your muscles, in the glycogen stores. So if you eat more than you need, and that's not to say you sit down and have half a kilo of rice and it's not all carbohydrates, but you're not going to be completely depleted either. When you train, you don't completely deplete all your muscles. You'll deplete the legs, your biceps, and your neck muscles are probably still full of glycogen, so no problem at all. But the leg muscles, they need replenishing. So you might only have to have 100 grams to replenish that. You could get that from your veggies, okay, if you eat enough of them, or a small amount of carbohydrates, but you've got to play around with that. First of all, try dropping off your gluten-containing carbs. Secondly, try reducing the amount of starchy carbs you have and increasing the amount of vegetable and plant-based carbohydrates that you eat. So veggies like your leafy green veggies, spinach, even go down the line of root veggies like carrots and parsnips. They're very glycemic. They're going to spike your blood sugar levels. If you eat like a bag of carrots, that's going to be a bit of an issue. But if you just have a couple and you're having them with other food like courgettes and cabbage and kale and cauliflower, get a mix of vegetables in there and just increase the amount you're having. 5 a day, that ain't for you. 5 portions of fruit and veg a day, that's for people who don't do any training, okay? And even then, that's not enough. For you and for me, we need to be shooting for 10, okay? That's why one of the reasons I take lean greens, because it gives me 5 straight off the bat, first thing in the morning. But I still don't rely on that. I still go for 10 portions of vegetables during the day, massive salads at lunchtime, side portions of spinach with my eggs, big portions of veggies with my evening meal, snacking on veggies through the day, crudités like carrot sticks and so on. It's easy to do, but you've got to make an effort to make it happen. Get your nutrients in, and then you'll find you need less of the starchy carbs. And as a nice side effect, if you're looking at maybe dropping a few pounds, this is probably going to happen as well. So think on. Okay, well, I'm just going to get off my soapbox now and get next question. Alrighty. The day of the race done that one. Samantha, Jane, I've struggled with my carbs on and off the last 6 months. Usually when I've increased intensity with hill runs or intervals. They're okay at the moment, concerned about getting back into hills intervals. Any advice? Yeah, okay, that's Jane. Now, Jane, running up hills is a really common stressor for the carbs. Depending on your running style, increasing intensity can also do the same thing. So it's really not uncommon that you've experienced what you've experienced. At this stage of your training, you shouldn't be doing massive amounts of hill training. Okay, so the hills, if you're going to do hills, They want to be sort of earlier on in the training program. Done with that now. Maybe a little bit of hilly hills in the long run. I understand the course is quite hilly. Have a look at the new profile because it's different to last year, I understand. So have a look at the new profile and check that out. But don't let it freak you out, because if you've done a bit of hill training, you'll be fine. Back to the calves. Try a calf stretch, standing on the bottom of a stair and dropping your heel down, and then doing the same thing with your knee a little bit bent as well, because that's going to give you a stretch to both parts of the calf. You've got two. You've got the bit that crosses the knee joint, and you've got the bit that crosses just the ankle joint, the soleus, the gastrocnemius and the soleus. Straight leg will get mainly the gastroc. Bend the knee, you're going to get into the soleus. So you want, and you'll feel the difference in the stretch as well. So get both stretches before you run. Try rolling the calves as well. Again, not the most pleasant thing you'll ever do, but you'll thank me for it eventually when those calves loosen off. Calf raises as well can increase the strength of the calves. It may be something to do with your running gait. It may be that your big toe, if your big toe as you're running, if your big toe isn't loose enough as you run, that can push you off to the side. That can strain the outside of your calves. So there's all sorts of things that could be going on. If you're getting a recurring problem, even with non-hilly training, then it's worthwhile going to seeing a physio, bypass the NHS, just go straight in, pay your 40, 50 quid, whatever, get a private physio session. They'll be able to isolate the problem pretty quickly. Might even be an imbalance in your pelvis, and no amount of exercising in the world is ever going to be able to redress that problem. You've got to go and get clunked and clicked back into position. So a chiropractor, physio, or even an osteopath should be able to deal with that and help you out. Just got to go and find someone who you maybe have been recommended, or someone who's has been there before, and you know that they have experience of working with runners. They should all be fine. I haven't met a chiro, osteo, or physio before who hasn't been able to deal with a running injury, but all the same, it's always good to go for a recommendation. Wouldn't you agree? Alrighty, next question, Jane. Okay, this looks like it's the last question, so if you've got any more, ask them now, because there's about a 15-second delay on this call. And so it's not really live, but it means that if I finish it and there's no more questions, then that'll be it. I'll sign off. So this last one from Jane Astle, another for me. I watched the nutrition video, but noticed you didn't include anything about dairy. What's your advice on dairy intake? Another controversial one. Thanks, Jane, for throwing that one in at the end. Dairy is a bit of a moot point. There are some benefits to it, but there are also some kind of contraindications with it as well. Essentially, we're not designed to break down lactose after the age of about 9 months. So when you're breastfeeding as a baby, we're still in the, most of us, about 80% of us, 75% I think, have the ability to process and break down lactose, the proteins in milk. But then we start to reduce that ability. So as an adult, we have less of an ability to do that. Now we can still do it. We can still kind of get by and drink milk and eat yogurt and butter and cream and creme fraiche and all those good things. But getting by and surviving versus thriving, it depends on kind of where your barometer of what you want sits. Now, if you're going completely clean, then you'd avoid dairy. However, there are a couple of exceptions. Let me just cover milk for a second. Actually, I had a conversation with a guy this evening. He's a great guy. He's just joined my boot camp here in Tame. And he was saying since he joined the boot camp, he's stopped his addiction. And he was telling me what his addiction was. He was addicted to those big old Marks and Spencer's cookies and milk. So he literally was just drinking milk and eating cookies pretty much every evening. But the problem with milk, sorry, it made me think of that. The problem with milk mainly is that any potential goodness that you could get from milk, it has got good bits of B vitamins. It's got some calcium in there. You know, you've got vitamins and minerals, and you've got some healthy fats. But as soon as that bad boy is pasteurized and homogenized, everything changes. Change the structure of the proteins, the fats. You denature the very oxygen sensitive and heat sensitive minerals like calcium. So you're not getting the benefits that you would have done had you just drunk it from the udders of the cow. I don't recommend you do that either, because there's obviously, if you know, issues with drinking raw milk, that a lot of people do it. Now, you certainly can't buy it from the supermarket. That's still illegal. But by pasteurizing, you're losing a lot of those benefits. Now, with yogurt, it's a little bit, there's a bit more leeway. This is my opinion, by the way, what I've researched and read and what I've what I teach with my clients and members of my online programs. With yogurt, you're getting some of the benefits of the bacteria that are going to help with your digestion. Again, not everybody is going to be the same with that. And the same with butter. If you can get a hold of grass-fed, free-range butter, that is going to have a different structure of fats in it compared to ordinary butter that comes from ordinary grain-fed, soy-fed, silage-fed, sludge-fed cows. That changes the structure of the milk. Grass and clover will give the milk of the cow a different structure to when they're fed on soy and silage and millet and grains. So hopefully you can see that connection, and they make the butter out of the milk, and you're eating that. So you're going to eat different fats depending on where the fats come from. Kerrygold is 95%, I think, of the time the cows are out to pasture. There's a little bit of controversy in there. There's a bit of GMO feed that they're given during the 5% or 10% of the time when they're indoors, but it's not a bad payoff. So Kerrygold's my choice of butter. It's just very hard to get the unsalted. Come on, Kerrygold, sort it out. Okay, a couple more questions. I don't have to finish on a downer with dairy. What do you think of Katie taping up? Do you think it helps? Paul, you're a legend. Thank you for asking that question. I love Katie tape, and other tapes are available. There's rock tape, there's other ones as well. I used Katie tape on my Achilles. If you ever have Achilles problems, you've got to try this stuff. It is like witchcraft. I kid you not. I was running a marathon a day for 10 days. Leading up to that, I was getting massive problems with my left Achilles, to the point where I was thinking, well, you know what, I'm committed to doing this. There's a good chance my Achilles is going to go twang at some point. I knew it would be good for the first 3. After then, it was anybody's guess. I started taping up. I was doing some work with Katie tape at the time. Really, really cool. They sent me some products, so I used the tape, used the products. And when I had it on, when I put the tape on, it was before that, rather, before I put it on, I couldn't put any weight on my foot. This was like in between the marathons. Overnight, I was getting up in the night and I couldn't barely put any weight on the foot at all. In the morning, taped it up, and it was like there was no problem. To the extent where by the time I got to the 10th marathon, I was almost thinking to myself, well, you know what, should I bother putting it on? It feels like the problem's gone away. And the swelling had gone down. I mean, this is during running a marathon a day for 10 days. My injury had actually got better because of the Katie tape. It's the only thing I've done differently. Now, it doesn't normally cure the problem. It had a pretty good hash at it. In my case, it doesn't normally cure the problem, but it allows you to continue training whilst you have treatment and whilst you address the issue. So if one of the issues is you're out of alignment, or you have a weakness or a tightness, that you can continue to strengthen and stretch those areas, and the Katie tape will allow you to continue training. That's not just for Achilles, that's for all sorts of issues. If you go to katietapeuk.co.uk, now check out their website, because they've got videos showing you exactly how to put on the tape for various body parts. You literally go and say, oh, okay, I've got a knee problem, and they'll tell you. It might not work for you like it worked for me, but I'll tell you what, it is worth a go. If you're worried about an injury, it is worth a go. A roll of tapes, say 25 quid or something, which is less than a physio session. I would still recommend you going to see a physio, but in fact, the physio, the chiro who I saw, she was one who really saved me, because she showed me another level of taping. So I was using the Katie tape one from their website, and it was giving me pretty good results, but I was still feeling it a little bit. Then she showed me another way, which just pulled my ankle back into alignment, gave it a little bit more support. And that was a time where I stood up and was like, oh my God, what just happened? All I could feel was where the Katie tape was just pulling a couple of little leg hairs out. That was the only pain I had. And I'd gone from not being able to walk on the damn thing to being able to walk perfectly normally, and then run another marathon the next day. This stuff works. You got to check it out if you have any niggles. It's not like a cure-all for everything, but if you haven't tried it yet, then that's one thing you need to exhaust before you move forwards. Great question, Paul. Thanks. Sarah, George, my neck and shoulders hurt so much after a long run. I'm really trying to hold my posture. Would you recommend a sports massage? Yeah, definitely, Sarah. I recommend a sports massage for anybody. Try to film yourself running, not just on the long run, because you can be doing the same thing on the short run. It's just only really becoming a fatigue point during the volume of the long run. So maybe try and get someone to film you running on a treadmill. Then you can look back and see what's happening. If you're lifting your shoulders up a little bit, I mean, you can even be holding good posture, but if your shoulders are elevated, or if you're twisting around like this when you run, there's a lot of effort going into that. So you want to be relaxed in the shoulders. There's a technique video on my YouTube page, my YouTube channel, so go and check that out as well, because it just really helps to loosen off any areas of unwanted tension. But a sports massage will help if you have a lot of latent tension in there, especially if you sit down a lot during the day and you end up rounding forwards. Then a massage is absolutely going to help with that one. And you know, why the hell not? You're doing all this training, go and treat yourself, have a massage. Massage once every couple of weeks, 3 weeks is a good thing as well. Dan Watts, hi George, the link to your training schedule no longer works. Sorry, yes, you're right, it doesn't work. Yeah, can I reload it? Yeah, actually, best thing is if you, the reason I didn't update it is because now there's only 5 weeks to go. It's a 12-week schedule. But if you email me, I think maybe you did email me or Facebook me, or somebody else did, and I didn't get back to them. Apologies for that. If you email me, I will send it on to you. Just tell me which one you want, and I'll send it over to you. It's just a PDF file. So yeah, apologies if you've already done that, Dan. I think that might be the last question. Is there anything else? I'm just okay. Oh, hang on. Hopefully I'm still there. I've just seen someone's lost me on tuning into another group there that's watching this live presentation. I can't see any of the questions coming in yet. I'm just going to one more refresh of this, see if anything else has come up, and then I'll probably sign off after that. Okay, Dan, your question was the last one. Yeah, anybody else who wants any information at all, 2 things. First of all, the links are up there, top of the page on the post for this video on the Robin Hood Facebook page. Join the group. The link to the group is there. Join the group because there's loads of there's about 450, 460 people in there at the moment who are all training for the half full marathon. There's great community. There's really good Q&A. So somebody's asking a question, and it's like you're not out there doing it on your own. You know, you've got other people who are doing it. I'm on there quite a lot as well. So if you have a specific question for me, just tag me in it. I'll hop in there and answer it for you. And the second thing is, make sure you jump onto my email list, because I'm sending out other information on the email list, especially as we get closer to it. I'll be sending out links to where you can download a wearable pace band. I'll be sending out links to information on the taper, on the nutrition strategies, hydration strategies on the run, things about the course itself. All that's going to be happening via email. So make sure you get onto my email list as well. And if you've got any other questions, just get in touch, ask away. But remember, go right back to what I said at the beginning. Wherever you are with your training right now is where it needs to be for the experience that you're going to have on a day. So don't panic. You've done enough. You're doing enough. If there's more that you can give, then give it. If you're giving everything and you think you should be giving it more, then stop thinking that you should be giving it more. If you're giving it as much as you can, you're doing the long runs, you're putting in the effort, then the results that you get are the results that you get. Okay, don't add extra stress onto this. This should be a challenge, but a rewarding experience at the same time. You need to remember that. It's not just the day, it's the next 5 weeks as well, next 5.5 weeks. Enjoy every footstep. Get out that run, get out for that next one, have the objective clear in your mind so you know what it is you're doing. Get out there, reconnect with your running, enjoy yourself, and I will be there in Nottingham on September the 27th to encourage you along. Bye for now.